Distributed database management system is a database system in which data is stored across multiple sites or locations. Even though the data is physically distributed, the system allows users to access and view the data as if it were stored in one single centralized database. This differs from a centralized database where all corporate data is stored at one single central site. The last 2 decades gave birth to a series of crucial social and technological change, where the evolution of it is the growing acceptance of internet as platform for data access and distribution, the wireless revolution, the acceleration growth of companies focused providing application and service type of service, the increased focus on data analysis that lead to data mining and data warehousing. Distributed processing is database logical processing is shared among 2 or more physically independent sites connected through a network. For example, the data input-output, data selection, and data validation might be performed on one computer, and the report based on that data might be created on another computer. The processing is distributed across multiple sites. Distributed database stores logically related database over 2 or more physically independent sites. Store logically related database over 2 or more physically independent sites. Comparison between distributed processing and distributed database. Distributed processing is processing distributed and shared workload to improve efficiency. Example like different servers each run part of a program. Different servers each run part of a program. Different servers each run part of a program. Distributed database is data storage. Store data closer to users and improve access. Branch database storing local customer records. And banking system distributed processing, each branch process transaction locally. Distributed database customer card records are stored in multiple branches but remain accessible to all branches. Advantage of DDBMS disadvantage include complexity of management control, technological difficulty, security, lack of standards, increased storage requirements, multiple copies, complexity, technological difficulty, security, lack of standard, increased storage requirements, multiple copies of data require different site, increased training costs. Characteristic of distributed management system application interface interact with the end user application programs and other DBMS. Advantage include data are located near greater demand site, faster data access and data processing. Faster data access and data processing. Growth facilitation new sites can be added to your network without affecting the operations of other sites. Improve communication because local sites are smaller and located closer to customer. Reduce operating costs at workstation, not mainframe. Reduce operating costs at workstation, not mainframe. User-friendly interface, and there is less danger of a single point failure. User-friendly interface. User-friendly interface, less danger of a single point failure. Processor independence, end user is able to access any available copy of data and end user requires is processed by any processor at the data location. Characteristic of distributed management system application interface interact with the end user application programs and other DBMS validation to analyze requests for syntax correctness, transformation to decompose complex requests into atomic data request component, query optimization to find the best access strategy, mapping to determine the data location of local and remote fragments. Mapping is to determine the data location of local and remote fragments. To determine the data location of local and remote fragments. Input-output interface to read or write data from or to permanent local storage. To read or write data from or to permanent local storage. Formatting to prepare the data for presentation to the end user or an application program. Security to provide data privacy at both local and remote database. Security to provide data privacy at both local and remote database. Backup and recovery to ensure the availability and recoverability of database in case of a failure. To ensure the availability and recoverability of database in case of a failure. Concurrency control to manage simultaneous data sets and to ensure data consistency. Transition management to ensure the data move from one consistent state to another. Must perform all the functions of centralized DBMS. Must handle all necessary functions imposed by distribution of data and processing. Must perform this additional function transparently to their end user. The DBMS components: computer workstation, network hardware and software, communication media, transition processor, application processor, transition manager, software component file in each computer that requires data. Software component file in each computer that requests data received and process the application data requires. Data processor, data manager, software component residing on each computer. Software component file in each computer that requires data. Data processor is software component residing on each computer. Data processor is software component residing on each computer that stores and retrieves data located at the site, maybe a centralized DBMS. Data processor is software component residing on each computer that stores and retrieves data located at the site, maybe a centralized DBMS. Levels of data process distribution. Current system classified by how process distribution and data distribution support. Single site process, single site data host DBMS. Multiple site data not applicable. Multiple site versus single site data file server client server. Multiple site versus multiple site data fully distributed client server. Single site versus single site data, all processing is done on a single CPU or host computer mainframe. All data are stored on host computer local disk. Processing cannot be done on end user side of system. Several processes run concurrently on the host computer accessing a single DB. Typical of most mainframe and mid-range computer DBMS. DBMS is located on host computer which is accessed by dumb terminals connected to it. All data stored in one central site or transition process at the same site since everything happens in one location. Network communication is not required. Easy to manage, secure, maintain. Multiple site process, single site data. Multiple processes run on different computers sharing single data repository. Requires network file server running conventional applications that are accessed through RN. Many multi-user accounting applications running on their personal computer network fit such description. Many multi-user accounting application running under personal computer network fit such description. And there is one central site stores the entire database. Processing is done from multiple different sites or terminal. Sites must be connected to central database over a network. Data security and updates are controlled from one place. All store terminals connect to main headquarters server. Inventory is a database kept only at HQ branch. Perform serial transactions from their own location. Branches perform sales transactions from their own location. Branches perform sales transactions. Client-server architecture is similar to that of the network file server, except that our database processing is done at the server side, thus reducing network traffic. Malware-side processing malware-side data fully distributed database management system with support for multiple data process and transaction process at malware side. Classified as either homogeneous or heterogeneous. Homogeneous integrate only one type of centralized DBMS over network. Heterogeneous integrate different types of centralized DBMS over network. Fully heterogeneous is support different DBMS that may even support different data models, like relational, hierarchical, network running other different computer systems like mainframes and microcomputer. Multiple and data is stored in multiple locations, distributed database. Each site processes its own data locally. Sites can communicate to share data or handle distributed queries. Each site processes its own data locally. And sites can communicate to share data. A multinational bank stores its own customer records. There is type of transparency features, distribution, failure, performance, heterogeneity, translation. Distribution allows management of physically dispersed database as though it were a centralized database. Translation ensures database transactions will maintain distributed database integrity and consistency. Ensure translation completed only when database sites involve completed path. And distributed database system requires complex mechanism to manage translation. Distributed database system require complex mechanism to manage translation to ensure consistency and integrity. Distributed database system require complex mechanism to manage translation. Distributed database system require complex mechanism to manage translation. Distributed database system require complex mechanism to manage translation to ensure consistency and integrity. Remote request single SQL statement access data from single remote database. Remote translation access data at single remote site. Distributed translation request data from several different remote sites or network. Distributed request single SQL statement reference data at several DB sites. Single SQL statement reference data at several DB sites. Performance is objective of query optimization routine is to minimize total cost associated with execution requests. Objective of query optimization routine is to minimize total cost associated with execution of requests. Costs associated with requests are function of access time, communication, CPU time. Must provide distribution transparency, allows management of physically dispersed database as though it were a centralized database. Replica transparency to high existence of multiple copies of data from user. Design concepts is the relational entity normalization. The new issues is data fragmentation, allocation, and the data replication. How to partition database into fragments, which fragments to replicate, where to locate those fragments and replica. Data fragmentation breaks a single object into two or more segments of fragment. Each fragment can be stored at any site over computer node. Information about data fragmentation is stored in distributed data catalog, which is accessed by the TP to process user requests. Strategy horizontal fragmentation, division of a relation into subsets of tuples Each fragment represents the equivalent of a select statement with the where clause on a single attribute. Vertical fragment division relation to attribute subset. This is the equivalent of the project statement. SQL means fragmentation combination of horizontal and vertical strategy. A table may be divided into several horizontal subsets, each one having a subset attribute. Company corporate management requires information about its customer in all three states, but company location in each state require data regarding local customer only, so each horizontal fragment may have a different number of rows, but each fragment must have the same attribute. Suppose the company is divided into two departments. Each department is located in a separate building and each has interest in only a few of the customer table attributes. Each vertical fragment must have the same number of rows, but the inclusion of the different attributes depends on the key column. Company structure requires that the customer data be fragmented horizontally to accommodate the various company locations. Source data replication is storage of data copies at multiple sites served by the computer network. Primary copies can be stored several sites to serve specific information requirement, can enhance data availability and response time, can help to reduce communication and total query costs. Can enhance data availability and response time, help to reduce communication and total query costs. Replication scenarios. Fully replicated database stores multiple copies of each database fragment at multiple sites can be impractical due to amount of overhead. Partially replicated database stores multiple copies of some database fragments at multiple sites. Most DBMS are able to handle the partially replicated database well. Unreplicated database stores each database fragment at a single site. No duplicate database fragments. No duplicate database fragments. No duplicate database fragments. Data allocation is deciding where to allocate data, which data to locate with. Data distribution over computer networks are true data partition, data replication, or combination of both. Centralized data allocation is entire database is stored at one site. Partition data allocation is database is divided into several disjoint. Partition data allocation is database is divided into several disjoint parts and stored in several sites. Replicated data allocation is copies of one or more database fragments that stored on multiple sites. Way in which client server versus DBMS. Way in which computer interact to foreign system. Features user of resource or client provider of resource can be used to implement a DBMS in which clients the TBMS servers the DBMS. Less expensive than alternate mini-computer or mainframe solutions, allow end users to use microcomputer GUI by improving functionality and simplicity. Numerous data analysis and query tools assist the faster interaction with DBMS available in PC market. PC is well established in workplace. More people in job market P skills than mainframe skill. Considerable cost advantage to offloading applications development from mainframe to powerful PCs. Client server disadvantage creates more complex environment. Different platforms, LLMs, operating systems are often difficult to manage. An increase in number of users and processing sites often pave the way for security problems. Possible to spread data access to much wider circle to user, increased demand for people with broad knowledge of computers and software. Increased demand for people with broad knowledge of computer and software, increased burden of training and cost of maintaining the environment.